Hello, everyone. It's May 23rd, 2023. Welcome to today's edition of the Day Weather Podcast, brought to you every Monday through Friday by Cowboy State Daily and by WYDOT. I'm day weather meteorologist Don Watzel. Well, our weather conditions are continuing to trend more active as we roll through this week and likely through Memorial Day weekend. Looking at slightly above average temperatures for northern Rockies and high plain states, while a slight contrast will exist over the Four Corners and central and southern areas, going to be trending a few degrees cooler to near seasonal. We still have our deepening trough over the west coast, and that's going to bring more showers and thunderstorms, increasing in coverage and intensity starting today in spots, but especially so through the second half of the work week and at least for part of the holiday weekend coming up. Haze and smoke is still improving, but may still be an issue in spots, especially on the lee side of the Front Range and over the central and northern high plains, which will be some of the last areas to get out of our ridge pattern that's set up and formed over this past weekend. And with it being a holiday and travel expected to be spiking over many areas of the country, we cannot rule out the threat for scattered strong or severe weather, possibly starting Wednesday and maybe increasing through the extended forecast. Here's a look at the upper level jet stream map as of this morning, 6 a.m., based on the American GFS model. We see our Pacific Northwest trough starting to gain a little more form as it digs a little further south towards Northern California and Nevada, and continuing to slowly but surely drift our high pressure ridge into more of the central and northern plain states. The jet stream, which is that river of air aloft that pretty much controls all our weather patterns, acts like a conveyor belt. We have our trough of low pressure here, another eastern Pacific ridge that's helping to drive that further inland over the lower 48, and another deeper, colder trough off the Gulf of Alaska. All of this works in tandem to really drive our day-to-day weather, and it'll continue to help amplify this trough over the next few days. If we scan ahead to early Wednesday morning, it is starting to fragment a little bit, actually breaking off into two separate what we call short waves in the world of weather. An area of low pressure off the Pacific Northwest, another more defined area of low pressure in the Northwest Canadian provinces, helping to amplify that ridge again more into the high plains and Great Lakes. The resultant southwest flow is what's going to give us this additional instability as we roll through this week, and will be the story through Thursday and even into Friday. We'll go ahead and scan ahead 48 more hours to early Friday morning. This ridge well off into the Great Lakes. Going to see another retrograding area of low pressure undercutting that ridge pattern, if you will, kind of forming an ill-defined omega block. Meanwhile, our west coast trough still hanging out in the west and pretty much providing consistent day-to-day weather patterns over the Rocky Mountain West. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit and provide an animation of the daily relative humidity. As you can see, this is the lower 48 right here. We have a gyre effect. Areas of low pressure spinning off the west coast, moving into the high plains on a day-to-day basis. And as you can see, we do have areas of moisture aloft that'll come from various different sources, some coming in from the Pacific. We may get some advection of moisture coming in from the Gulf as well. But as you can see, nearly daily, consistent weather is ongoing, pushing the ridge further into the high plains and providing that moisture and buoyancy aloft that will help set up daytime, afternoon, and evening showers and thunderstorms. And this goes right on through the Memorial Day holiday into early Tuesday morning. As we hinted at in the early part of the video, as these storms form, an increase in coverage could gain strength depending on the convective parameters. We look at middle and upper level instability, wind shear, moisture, daytime heating, all the ingredients coming together at the right point for the showers and thunderstorms. And this area right here, including but not limited to, may have to watch out for areas of strong and severe weather if we can get everything to come together just right, mostly starting Wednesday, but on a day-to-day basis, Thursday and Friday and into the weekend. The severe threat is evaluated on a day-to-day basis and updated multiple times a day based on the current weather conditions and short-term forecast trends. Let's go ahead and look at precipitation potentials over a 7-day period. This runs through the rest of this week and into the weekend and early Tuesday morning. This is from the American GFS model, which does tend to bias more towards a wetter pattern, but nevertheless, we do see trends of a heavier rainfall, maybe some stronger thunderstorms drifting into the Colorado Front Range and the nation's midsection. We showed in yesterday's podcast that this area is still suffering under intense, extreme, and exceptional drought conditions. And while not everyone will get these type of precip totals, unfortunately, if we could get something out of this weather pattern coming up, would certainly help put another dent into those drought conditions over the open plains. Could see some other steadier precip totals over parts of the northern high plains and Rockies, and the problem area where the Canadian wildfires are ongoing could potentially get some much needed precipitation over a 7-day period. This again is a little wetter, if you will, compared to other model suites. This is the European model, which does run a little less biased towards a wetter pattern, but still shows some pretty good precip totals over the central and southern plains, and the same spots around Montana, the mountains and plains and valleys of Idaho, as well as the northwest Canadian provinces. The Canadian model itself does show some conservative precip totals in the prairies and some significant rainfall amounts through Tuesday morning in the northern high plains and parts of the Front Range and the nation's midsection. Compare these precip totals to the temperature trends over the next 7 days. If we kind of even out all of the spikes and anomalies from a day-to-day basis, it looks like we are going to trend a little warmer than average around Wyoming, parts of eastern Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas, and Nebraska, while a slight contrast towards seasonal or slightly below conditions will exist over the Four Corners, the Southern Plains, and the Great Basin, which in general will run near average or slightly warmer. Thanks for listening and watching, everyone. Have yourself a fantastic Tuesday. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.